Here are the energies for the month of Cancer. The sun goes through the sign of Cancer as it crosses over the summer solstice point, which is the sun at its highest. This is like a full sun. If you think of a full moon, this is the full sun when the sun is at its highest. And as it crosses over from Gemini to Cancer, going over the top of the year, it's now beginning to take its downward turn as the days start to get shorter. Days don't really get shorter, it's the daylight hours that are getting shorter as the nighttime hours begin to get longer. So the sun, as it arcs across the sky, will rise and set in a smaller and smaller arc from now on until we get to the winter solstice, when we take 3 days, and then we'll start to see that solar arc grow and the sun's strength grow. So the beginning of the month of Cancer is always with the summer solstice. So we're now delving into the element of water. We've gone from Gemini, which is air, to water, Cancer, which is water. And Cancer is like the primal water, it's the waters of the womb. So it's that sonic pulsing that we feel when we're in the womb that we then can reconnect to when we're underwater in the swimming pools or in the sea. It's that kind of confused but comfortable territory where everything's, light's refracting differently and sound is heard differently. The day-to-day senses are a little bit more fantastical as we swim around in a different kind of light, gravity and sound environment. So think of Cancer as the womb or the sea mammals, and you'll start to get the feeling of what this energy is. It's very mothering, very nurturing. And it's to do with those primal seas, where we come from and where we go back to as well. Cosmically, we come out of the primal ocean of light that is our cosmos, and then we come into the physical realm, and then we go back again. So we're talking about that primal feminine that we come from, and then through the womb and into this current reality. So that's the journey of Cancer. And interestingly enough, Sirius, the star system Sirius, is aligned to the sign of Cancer. So there's many people out there that will know all about the Sirius star system as potentially one of the places that may have seeded life on this planet. So we have big alignments with Sirius that will always be worked with in events as well. So we'll see many events going on with Sirian alignments this month. So the sun into Cancer from the 21st of June to around the 23rd of July, when we move into Leo. So what else is going on? The big news straight away is that as soon as we're getting used to the solstice, which is 3 days, 21, 22, 23, into the 24th, we actually have a full moon this year as well, and the full moon is in Capricorn. So we've had the summer solstice, which is the sun at its height, and met by this full moon in Capricorn. People call it a supermoon. It's not really, it's just a little bit closer to Earth than the other ones, but the orbit of the moon around the Earth is fairly geometrically perfect, so it's not that much closer. But if you do see the moon, it may appear a bit larger just due to the distortion of our atmosphere, etc. But all moons are super. But this one is coming at a super time, so full sun, full moon, and the moon is in Capricorn. Capricorn is playing a very important role this month, as we have a grand trine in water. That's Saturn in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces, and Mercury and Jupiter moving through the sign of Cancer, creating this trine. There are other planets in Cancer, but we're just talking about this particular big triangle that's going on in the skies. And that's all very watery and emotional. But with Pluto at the bottom there, it's a bit like an anchor. So when the sea's tossing and turning and our boats are being thrown around on the surface of this water trine, there's a heavy anchor at the bottom, which is represented by Pluto in Capricorn, just keeping everything firm, keeping everything still. And the real message generally for this month is to find your depth and find your foundation, because all the things that are going on will be coming up from the past and they will seem important, but there's a lot of emotional cleansing going on. But it's up to us to know where we are centered and where we are strong, what we stand on and what we stand for. So we have that lovely strength coming in with Pluto in Capricorn. So Mercury is going to go retrograde in Cancer, and the other 2 points of this grand trine are also retrograde. And retrograde tends to take the energy of that planet and ask us to take it inwards. It's a magnetic quality. So when Mercury goes retrograde, most people will be familiar with this phenomena by now. It's to do with communication, speaking and travel. Those are the things that Mercury represents. Inside of us and outside of us, it's our ability to process thought, our moving around, our communication skills, that kind of thing. As Mercury is a quick moving planet, orbits around the Sun really quickly and actually delivers a frequency of the Sun to our planet that is in frequency with our mind and our brain and our communication skills. So when Mercury goes retrograde, there's a whole separate video on this, so I won't talk for too long, but when Mercury goes retrograde, those things can become a little bit mixed up. Best way to think of it is swapping hemispheres in the brain. Left hemisphere is rational, logical, communicative. Right hemisphere is more emotional, sentient, psychic. We jump to the other hemisphere when Mercury goes retrograde. So although things may not go to plan, especially if there's plans with lots of different parts or equipment with lots of moving parts, this is when the more links in your chain, the more likelihood there is that something can go wrong. Tight deadlines on interconnecting flights or tight deadlines on having to get a project finished. These are the things that can cause a little bit of stress during Mercury retrograde. But the big plus is that we're actually getting into that other part of our brain. We're more intuitive, we're more psychic, we feel more on a cellular level, and with Mercury going through the sign of Cancer, this is all going to be about the sacral and the cellular. So this is a fantastic time to actually practice your divination skills, your communication skills. Divination is divine communication, and your psychic ability, and just tune in with the bigger part of yourself that's way outside the rational and the fields that we can just access with our main 5 senses. On the same day that Mercury goes retrograde, that's the 27th, we have Jupiter entering into Cancer as well, and this is a big deal because Jupiter only changes sign once a year. So when Jupiter goes into a sign, it begins by clearing out a lot of things. It has to make room. And we noticed this last year when Jupiter went into Gemini. We were all having our minds cleared. Gemini is a very mental, air-based sign. So lots of thoughts that didn't serve us anymore, lots of the programming, lots of restriction, mental restrictions have been taken away and then replaced with much bigger thinking over the last year. So when Jupiter goes into Cancer, we can expect to see the same, but again it's going to be more on the emotional level. You may have clear-outs with retained cellular emotional memory to do with the mother or your feelings, your early childhood feelings in the home. So Cancer is the mother, the home, and maybe even back into past lives. All relationships with female and nurture of yourself, and where you felt you may need to have security and clamp down when it's actually better. Jupiter's come along to show us that it's actually safe to love, it's safe to open up. We don't have to run all these fear-based modules. Many people say that one of the reasons that they don't get into a relationship is they're afraid of getting hurt. But there is no hurt really, it's just a perception of how the other person is treating you. The more you love yourself, the less you're likely to allow others the power to have over you enough to actually hurt you. So that's just a small example. We'll be talking on this more as the year goes through, but it's a big deal. Jupiter going into Cancer is going to start sweeping away some of that emotional programming, sweeping away some of our memories of the past, which we probably have remembered wrongly as well. So holding on to a memory and protecting ourselves when that memory wasn't even like it, we remember it, is pointless. So the clearing out I'm seeing here is going to be on a very deep and cellular level. So go gently within with all these planets retrograde and just go back and say, did it actually happen that way? Have I taken things too personally? and what am I holding on to here that I could let go of, because you'll feel very light and powerful and cleansed if you do some of this work. Jupiter will give you a whole year to do that, but the quicker you make the space, the quicker the new and the positive can come in. We have, at the middle of the month, as always, we have a new moon, and the new moon will be in Cancer, because that's what happens when the sun goes through a sign. The new moon will be in the same sign. So on the 8th of July we have the new moon in Cancer, and a new moon opens up a 2-week window to bring in intentions and to make plans. So with the new moon in Cancer, we see here we have Jupiter, Sun, Moon and Mercury all in that sign. It's looking very sociable, it's looking very summery, and this will be a great opportunity to actually set some resolutions to be true to yourself, to decide who you want to give your love to, and how you can receive love back, and what are your best emotional bonds that you've got there. Not ones out of obligation or responsibility, but what are the really nurturing, loving bonds that you have there, and give a bit more attention to those. But most importantly, give some attention to loving yourself, because the stronger you become inside emotionally, the more your outer world will just naturally bring you what your heart's desire is anyway. So that's a lovely new moon on the 8th of July, 2-week window to set some emotional intentions. And then just before we end the Cancerian month, day before, on the 22nd of July, we have the first full moon in Aquarius. There'll be 2 over the month of July and August, because there's 13 moons in a year and only 12 Roman months, so there's always a bit of a hiccup there. But on the 22nd of July, just before the sun goes into Leo, in fact just a few seconds afterwards, we'll have a full moon in Aquarius, right at the beginning of Aquarius. It's going to be a very powerful one, because we're shifting again from the watery, deep feelings and those rooted foundations of Capricorn over now into the fire of Leo and the electricity and the ether of Aquarius. So it's a very powerful moon, lots of energy going on there. It's a really good opportunity to just tune into your inner knowing. This is all about knowing. This is all about trusting yourself. Hopefully you've got rid of the mental programs with Gemini, some of the emotional programs with Cancer, and by the time we get to this first Aquarius moon, you should be really clear to actually get to know yourself, your true beliefs and your sovereign divine being. So there's a very powerful energy heading fast our way, and I will be talking about that more in the weekly videos. But that's it for now. That's the month of Cancer. So we have Sun travelling through the sign of Cancer, big old Capricorn full moon, and that's the 23rd, at the same time as the solstice, which for me is 4 days. So full sun, full moon. 2 weeks later we have the new moon in Cancer on the 8th of July, and then 2 weeks later, to end the month, we have the full moon in Aquarius. On the other channels we have Mercury retrograde completing a grand trine, taking us on an emotional retrospective to do that clear out work, and Jupiter coming to help out and to make some room as well. So really every focus this month is all about clearing yourself emotionally from very long ago, if not past lives, in order to make some room to become sovereign when the Aquarian full moons come in over the month of August. So that's it for now, and I will see you next month.